Right, now let's talk about the bad things in CS. So, Regin, what is bad right now
I think
in
I
CS?
should start here
Yeah,
because
go for
it's
it.
a good follow-up for what the Maui just ended on here. Like, it's the state of Counter-Strike. Like,
Okay.
as you guys know, I've been playing CS since my first LAN tournament was in a basement with 100 people back in 1999
He
in
even
a
looks a
small
little bit
town.
like a Danish get right, to be fair. He looks like we're separated at birth, like, one of those things. Like, wrong hospital, did he get mixed
Probably,
up?
yeah.
What's going on?
Like, he was just better in CS2.
Right, he got all the CS gene, right,
Yeah, he
okay.
got all it, yeah. But I remember when I was introduced to CS, there was this, like, it was like really about mechanics, of course. Like, if you didn't win your duel, you would just lose, right? That's how it is.
Yeah, yeah.
But then the more you got into it, this tactical depth, strategy, everything, right? You saw these cool fakes, these new smokes, new flashes, this new the timings of everything, a really cool execute, stuff like that. And when the years go on, like we went from 1.3, 1.5, 1.6 to CS Source, it all got developed more and more. Then CS:GO came, put the scenes together, and you just saw this whole new game basically being played with a lot of tactical aspects coming in from Source, the mechanical sides from 1.6, and just met in this really beautiful game, right? That we all love today. And you just see like CS2 now is just all about banging hits. Like you said in the end, like the tactical is like, meh, you just go up and shoot a guy and you win the round. Like that's basically how most rounds are, even in the best teams. Like, of course they have these nice plays, timings, flashes, and everything, but when it all comes to it, it's just about raw aim, and I think that's kind of a shame. Personally, I'm not saying CS is bad because of it, but that's how I feel about it. I miss the more tactical depth, like the Astralis era. There was really high
Sure.
tactical with the nades, etc. Big has been a team where you had the legendary God B there, right, making up all these new tactics, pathings, timings, flashes, whatever. You just don't see it as often anymore. Now it's just about who bang out the most hits. And for me, that's a really sad thing, in my opinion. I don't know how you feel about that. And I think also one more thing to add to that, it also comes down to the map pool and the map designs itself. Like it used to be like this in 1.6 and Source. If you wanted to boost, you could boost anywhere. Like if you want to do a quad tower to make up to some rooftop, you can go there, right? You can't do any of that in CS2. So you know exactly like the heights of the angles, and which many angles they can be at. It's not this easy to be CT anymore as it used to be. You probably remember Inferno, right? In 1.6 on the archway, where you could do a triple boost up, and you could actually be in this small edge and see through like this, I don't know, rooftop, whatever, right? You would have a massive advantage, right? And really hard to BT if you don't do the correct flashes and stuff. And I think there is so many flaws in the designs of maps when it comes to that. Just look at Train, right? Train has nothing to do with Train if you look back at 1.6, right?
Yeah.
There's like
Used to be really tactical,
there,
right? Amazingly.
Yeah.
That's like a
exactly.
DM, innit? Yeah.
Yeah, and like
Yeah,
there was
true.
like two heavens, right? There was one for over the T side and the CT side, and there's
Yes.
like under the trains, over the trains, uh, and then you can talk about 1.6 not being too tactical, but at least because of the smokes and everything, right? But still, right? There was a lot of movement around, and it felt like you were really in the open. When you join train now and go outside, you feel like you're kind of inside. I don't know if that makes sense, but it's it's very cramped in my opinion, and I don't like that. I really dislike the designs of the maps right now.
I, there's
It's
so
a
many
big one,
points.
Mao. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, there's so many points here, and I feel like I'm glad that you're bringing it up because I mean I play a lot still, and I feel like there's the first thing with headshotting and headshotting and such is just like the map design. I that's something that immediately clicked in my head before you even brought up that point. I was thinking the map design now is so much more inclined to just fighting. Like Mazinho brought up what he would do as a dream map pool yesterday with Freya in like just one of those like between map segments, and he put Dust 2, Ancient, Cache, Mirage.
This
And
guy
I was
just
like,
a pugger
bro,
or something. What's going on at all?
you're putting every puggy
It's
map
like an FPL
possible.
player at 3 in the morning.
Yeah, his other 3 maps were interesting. He put Inferno, Train, and Overpass, and I don't know, like, I mean, eventually, like, I mean, he didn't put nuke, obviously. It's just that I think a lot of people that are at the highest level now are just honing in so much more on mechanics. And like the Mongols right now, like, and I think strategy is kind of getting flattened a lot, because if there's a team with good tactics, you're just going to end up stealing their strategies anyways, and you're going to try to learn the ins and outs of it. And even if you don't execute it perfectly, you're probably just going to shoot better than them if you're a team like, say, FaZe or Vitality or whatever. You know, like you just have the players that are probably going to be able to thrive in those kinds of situations. And like the intricacies of strats are somewhat taken away, because, and also and it kind of leads me to another point, is like utility in this game just feels so much weaker than it did in some of the other versions of Counter-Strike. Like the primary one I'm talking about is the smokes. Like I think that the smoke change was a very fun mechanic when it first came out for CS2. You can blow open the smoke, you can counterplay it. I think dynamism and being able to interact more with your opponent is generally a great thing in all competitive gaming. If there's plays that people can make that have no instant counter, it kind of takes away how fun and instantaneous the game can be. But the longer this goes on, the more I find out, oh wow, like Nuke has really lost a lot of its like the tactics of it, because people now are just breaking smokes. They're shooting through the edges of it. People are playing on the edges of smokes too now. I liked and see I now that I really think about it, I'm actually, one ways were bad. I didn't like one ways, but I think I'm getting rose-tinted glasses about the fact that someone pushing through a smoke in CSGO would be gray screen until they're completely out of that smoke. But now you can just sit on the edge of a smoke and you can play around opponent's utility in a way where their smoke almost becomes your advantage. And that's not because the opposing team is throwing bad smokes. Like, these are the best and most tactical teams in the world, and yet people are still playing between the edge of the molly at the bottom of Ancient and between the smoke there, and they're just putting their best fragger in that like edging spot between the molly and the smoke where there's a weakness, and then you can just shoot them. Like, it feels ridiculous, and it feels counterintuitive to what smokes are supposed to provide, which is cover to the team that's trying to take new space, or at least shroud what they're trying to do. And so I have even more points about this, but it's just like the list goes on. I just feel like this game is so it's taken away so much in terms of the slow, methodical play. And I'll say the last point I have here is Peeker's advantage. People are trying to disprove that Peeker's advantage exists in CS2. Like, I saw there's this Twitter. There's this Twitter guy that I've seen around, and I think he's doing legitimate tests. Like, I think his name was One Bird or something like that, and he's showing that like there was actually you have more time to react in CS2 than CS:GO. I'm just gonna say, like, on a visceral level, it feels hard. It still feels harder to hold angles. And I know this isn't just me getting old. This is like every single person from noob to pro is saying Peeker's advantage is better in CS2. So like, I don't know, like I'm gonna trust the people whose feelings are based off of thousands of hours of play, as opposed to looking at a stopwatch and saying like the time to react is the same, because I don't know if it's the models. I don't know if it's just like the way that we're perceiving these images. I don't know if it's how the person perceives it from their perspective, who's swinging into the angle, because it feels like you can break up in what used to be a perfect crossfire on Inferno, where there's one guy in water and there's one guy new box. The guy at water would hold contact on the guy swinging into, like on a retake, swinging in from CT. Like, the water guy now is losing that fight a lot. Like, he's losing the fight as the guy's trying to retake B, and you can't, like, the way Astral is played in 2018-19, I'm just going to say it wouldn't work in CS2. Like, you just can't play like that anymore, because the guy would swing you, he would get the opening kill, and then you would lose because you didn't peek him. You kind of have to do this, like, jiggle crouch into him peek if you're the holder, as opposed to in CSGO, if you were holding the angle and you had perfect crosshair placement, you just nail him. Like, you just get the shot. But nowadays, you just don't get the shot anymore. Like, the guy swinging is the one winning the duel. And I don't think that's Peeker's advantage. I think that's just, like, the way the mechanics of the game work, or something going on that is making it so you can't hold, like, a perfect crossfire anymore. Like holding what used to be a perfect crossfire now just seems like we need to swing together. Like, we need to go for a double swing. We need, like, playing off of each other's contact doesn't feel as strong as it used to.
You constantly have to jiggle or something, because if they catch you, you're dead right away, like instantly. And like one more thing to the smoke thing you said, right? Like, just try and notice how many times you see people running through a smoke and still get the kill, where that would never happen in CS:GO. Never. or CS Source, probably 1.6 because smokes weren't so hard, right? But I mean, it's just, it feels counterintuitive that you have an advantage running through a smoke, figure out where he is, and still get the jump on him. Like, that would never have happened in any certain CS earlier, right? But now, even in the top level, you see a guy swinging through a smoke, boom, boom, one guy dead, and especially on Ancient, like you said, right, where you shouldn't have this advantage, but somehow you do. And I just hate it. Like, we have this saying on our team, we've always had that, when in doubt, swing. Because that can never be wrong. Like you at least you kind of took the game to your hands instead of just giving it to your opponent, right? So whenever we find ourselves like, oh, we're in this situation where we might be good, but if they do like some kind of something, we just fucked, right? And if that's the case, you just swing back because that's the only thing you can do. And it's just not CS for me. And I really dislike that. And that actually comes to my last point, where it can tie everything together we talked about so far, is that Sphinx joining Mouse is actually a great upgrade because you just get more firepower, and the in-game leader right now is becoming more and more irrelevant. Like, when I see Mouse played, I saw them play against G2 the other day. It's nothing to do like their tactics are bad or anything, but it's so default, like everyone can do it, and the reason they're winning is because they're winning the duels. It's nothing to do with this, oh, there was a really nice timing and the pathing here and everything. No, it's just like, someone goes up, bangs out 2. Okay, super, we won the round. It's like, okay, so you actually makes the in-game leaders more irrelevant to some point, at least on the tactical side. There will always be this leadership and stuff like that. We can talk about that later if you want, but there's just, for me, like, a lot of really bad things about the current state of Counter-Strike, and I really hope that they're gonna address some of it in some way or another.
Yeah, by the way, what I think I'll say on this topic as well is, like, forget like the term peaker's advantage. I feel like it's just people being reply guys, Maui. The experience clearly with the eye test in pro play, and if you play the game at all yourself, you will feel a difference. Like, it isn't just like some great CSGO players complaining that CS2 isn't as good. In fact, I'll even say this. One of the biggest giveaways you have a problem in the game is even the people who are the current top players say they have problems with it, etc. Like, that's normally in esports, it's the opposite, because your brain is almost wired to go, no, this is fine actually if you're the one winning, because you're supposed to go, hey, fuck, keep everything how it is now, I'm on top. So when even the best AWPers tell you there's problems holding angles, that's not just like AWPers whining because people peaked them, etc. Like, there's two concepts you guys are addressing here. One is, if you know how smokes worked in CSGO, this is why, by the way, Astralis would not be a thing in the same way they were in CSGO, right? In the smoke, the reason why a smoke being thrown down, if you're a casual who plays face it, you go and like, just go through it, bro, do a Stewie 2K. The reason even Stewie 2K had to stop doing that is because when you came through a smoke in CSGO, like, as the person coming out of the smoke, they would see you a fraction of a second before you saw them. So it was like a disadvantage to do that, basically. Well, instead, in CS2, that doesn't even, it seems like it's like even money at this point in time. So, like, actually doing some, like, Stewie 2K smoke criminal bullshit actually, like, works way too effectively, if anything. Like, there's not really even counterplay to it. Then also, the idea of, like, an AWPer holding an angle. That is one of the most universal concepts in CSGO and 1.6. Like, the whole reason why is obvious. The normal mechanics, if you're moving with a rifle, is you have to counter strafe or stop before you can fire accurately, right? There's a problem if I can just peek, and because the CT holding the angle doesn't see you in time, it just like evens that angle up, evens like difference up, and then suddenly you can just like outfrag the AWPer. If you don't know, guys, if you used to play back in the day and you were playing, the classic example would be like Dust 2 CSGO T-side, good luck going and peeking that like long corner if an AWPer plays there. Like, that's the nightmare. That's why the joke is, if you have like pistols, you wouldn't even just run out, guys. You would do like 2 people doing a fucking stupid jungle pig jump to try and bait the AWPer, and then 2 people rushing really quick. It was a nightmare to do that. In CS2, by the way, you peek that corner, to get it like 50-50, you'll just bang the fucking AWPer out, and then the AWP's dead, and you've almost like won the round off kill 1 of the whole fucking map. So these are like fundamental concepts of even CSGO that just don't exist now. Like, I'll give you the extreme example. It's more extreme if you say it this way, mate. It's not just that Astralis wouldn't be the dominant team. I'll tell you who the greatest team of all time would be if they played CS2. Team Liquid 2019, the one where they just had all the fraggers, like Nitro and Stu. Mate, that team team would. That's like Super Mouse. That would destroy CS2, mate. You'd never be able to stop them. Like, all they did on T side was just bait the CT to peak and then just kill them instantly, and they would just do that over and over again until they could just take a site with like the best fraggers in the world, and then they would just walk on there with their rifles and just win the game. Like, that team would destroy. Like, I was even thinking, Reggie, when you were saying this earlier, if you know the charm of 1.6, it's that in 1.6 there was players at all skill levels whose actual skill set wasn't just shooting you in the head. Like, if people don't know, one of the reasons I think Neo wasn't as good at CS2 is he was amazingly skilled, but he was also just like his feel for when to move around the map and when to go to an area or to swap. He's like, he had like a cerebral aspect to his game. A classic one I always give the example of is the old Na'Vi like support player Senya. Mate, this guy was a baller on LAN because he would just use positioning against you and just win like a 1v2 or hold some spot where like he could just reposition and get like 3 kills there. Where he's not even supposed, if you don't know, he's supposed to be the least skilled player on their team. He was just using like smarts, setting up traps and stuff. That shit doesn't exist. Like, as we were saying, like a mouse player just jiggle peeks you and just shoots you straight in the head with an AK. Like, there's no counterplay to that. There's no like, oh, I could have studied on the demo. He would peek. No, he still peeked you and shot you straight in the head. Like, it's over. And then also, here's the angle I'll go with on the star player angle. If you think about it, right, there was actually a super team they made at the end of 1.6 in the last year. It didn't last that long. It was when Trace joined SK Gaming.
Oh, yeah.
The Dinge, right? If you don't know, guys, they had Get Right, Forest, and Trace at the same time. Let me just explain to you what the CS equivalent of that would be. It's not even this Vitality lineup now. It's like if on this Vitality lineup now, where they had Zebu and Rops, they also just got Nico as well. Right? Just think for a second what that team would do in CS2 right now if you just add Nico to fucking give Flames' spots to Nico or something. It'd be game over. Like, again, they're already probably going to win everything with the lineup they have now. That team would actually like annihilate CS2. Like, if you were the teams we talk about every week, Maui, that have like tactics but not firepower, like Pain Gaming or 3D Max, you wouldn't even be able to play in the server with these guys. Again, you'd try all this demo shit and they just shoot you in the head or in your elbow with an AK when you peek them and you'd be dead instantly. So I'm with you. And then also, lastly, the reason why this problem is so hard to diagnose is I think it's a perfect storm of everything at the same time, guys. Like, I think it is a mixture of Pika's advantage. I think the map pool is way too T-sided at the moment. You have none of the old map. That's why when you joke that the Mongols guy is like, he's making the game even worse. Think about what we had in CSGO. We had fucking Cobblestone. You might think Cobblestone was boring, but you had to have every smoke in that. You can't do anything on the fucking CT side. You had Train was a classic map where like it only became T-sided if you were like the best in the world. Other than that, of course, it's CT-sided. You had Nuke, the most classic CT-sided map of all time. By the way, in the modern day, the reason people like to watch Nuke play, which is a bad sign, Nuke's supposed to be boring, is because there's loads of play on T-side. People are getting down that secret all day long. People are fucking rushing the vents. Like, these were hard moves. If people don't know, that was the Astralis signature strat, was to rush the vent with the fucking smoke. But the difference is, they were just like the best at doing it. Anyone can do that now. Anyone can just have a... If you have guns, AKs, you can get someone down there every time now. That used to be like running through a brick wall when you were playing on that map against the top teams. Like, you try getting onto the fucking upper site when like Magisk is there or something, mate. You'll never get there. He'll just mow you all down like a fucking 3k instantly. In this game, you probably 2 people double peek him and one of you probably shoots him in the head. Like, I agree. It actually has fundamentally changed CS. It's not like it's like, what happened to the game I love? Like, it's still CS. But the problem is, I do think that you're making it too extreme. Because I've always said this, Reggie, to bring it all the way back. One of the things, if people don't follow Counter-Strike or famously Quake, is noobs from other games always think because they're skilled games, it's just about having aim. Whereas I always told people, nah, if you ever watch like Quake, for example, that guy Rafa wasn't even the most skilled. He didn't have like the best railgun. He was like a mega tactician, you know. In Counter-Strike, yeah, you have all these sick players. Yeah, we have Kenny S and Simpler, but it's not like they just win just by shooting people in the head. You have amazing players who have like a mind for the game. I'd say people like, by the way, I think people like Nico and Cold Zero, sometimes their mind's their best quality in the game, like their game sense, their feel for it. So I do think, unfortunately, we are going to lose something from CS if it just becomes like, Mouse is the best example because no one gives credit to Brolan. If Mouse really is going to be, by the way, guys, like the 3rd or 4th best team in the world, it's going to be a dark time in CS2 because are we just playing CSDM route? Like, is this not Counter-Strike? Is it not a tactical game where we're just shooting people with AKs? If we are, like, okay, that's something. I'm not going to switch and go watch fucking Valorant, but it's not CS. It's not the game I love in that sense. Exactly. You know?
No, I think like the best example is like when we have practice and stuff and we watch the game backs and like talk about mistakes we're doing during practice and what to avoid and stuff like that. Like 9 out of 10 times, just like, oh, I just didn't hit my shot and he strafed me and killed me. Right? It's just like, okay, next. Like you don't learn anything. It's just like, okay, raw mechanics, let's go. And yeah. It's
a weird position for the game to be in because in some way I really liked when I did. Oh, actually, I didn't like certain parts of. How do I frame this? I guess it's cool to see that the people that are in the best individual form are rewarded for it.
Okay.
But I also just feel like the consistency for teams now should become harder because of this. And I don't think that it should be. It just feels weird that. Like I feel like I'm just having to change my takes more and more from I'm still adjusting like the hot take from CS:GO to CS2 where it's like I don't have any faith in Brolin as an IGL2.
Okay.
Should I even worry? Should I even worry about this at all? Because everybody's just gonna recycle the same Navi playbook anyways. Like it doesn't matter.
See more cool, funny, interesting clips based on topics from my content? Well, subscribe to this channel then, or be a pleb and don't.